Welcome to Yerushalmi, Bava Daf Chof Dalid, Amud Aleph. We're at the two dots, about quarter of the way down. Tani in Shaman based Korpneshu Poigim. So we don't, we're not when we estimate, right? If there was an animal that damaged in the garden, so we don't estimate out a base core. Pneshu Poigim because base core is a large amount. What's a little patch that it ate in a large amount? Doesn't amount to much. So therefore, it comes out that the nizik is losing out. Below base kav, on the other hand, we're not going to measure by base kav because that's going to be overly favorable to the nizik, and it's at the mazik's expense. So we want to be fair. So l'shamin, zok the gemara l'shamin beisa beisa sada kama is yafa chami yafa. A beisa is more of a reasonable amount. A beisa is six kav, and that's more of a reasonable amount. And we'll discuss that now. Am Rabbi Yehuda, zok Rabbi Yehuda, misabes man shachli yichurei teinim. If it ate yichurei teinim v'kirtimo, so it ate these um, weak branches, or kirtamot broke. That's what the Barafulda says. Lashon breaking lulav kafan and branches of a vine, a grapevine. Avlim achla baisar. It ate unripened pagin. So it ate fruits that were not right, either anavim for the baisar or pagin is betaina. These are unripened tainim and anavim. Then, since it's a complete fruit, shaman loy peris gemurin. So even though it's unripened, but it's a fruit, so then we say, okay, how much did he eat? He had a cluster of grapes. What's a cluster of grapes worth? Rabbi Mishum Rabbi Kiva achla, and we're going to be guys here peris nitiyos. So it ate peris from young trees. Shaman loy nitiyos. So what we will do is we're going to estimate how much the young trees are worth with the fruit versus how much they're worth without the fruit. Netiyos, if it damaged the trees themselves, the young trees themselves, then shaman, like we said, Beisa, then we would estimate based, how much do these netiyos, how much are these trees worth in a Beisa? How much is Beisa worth with the trees and how much without these young trees? Shimon Yudaim Mishum Rabbi Akiva, Tvua Shlevi Shlish. Tvua that grew less than a third in Nidanis Kinetius, and we would be sham when we estimate the value, we shaman it al gabe base sa'ah, like we said. The Beta B'yanam is shaman tarkav b'shisha tarkavim, that when we estimate a tarkav, it's a tarkav b'shishim tarkavim. So what we're saying is a tarkav is a half a saw. Right? A saw is six. Now we said it goes based off a base saw. So what we do is we take shishim tarkavim, which is obviously 60 times 3. Tarkav is trey vikav, so it's 3. And what we do is we say that, right, it's off 180. So we do we do a half a saw based off of what would be 30 saw. Right? 30 saw is right. Each saw is 6 takavim, so it'll be 30 saw, and it's a half a saw by 30 saw, and then what we do is we take that half a saw and we double it, and that's the base saw that the Mishnah is referring to. So, for example, if each one of the 60 takava are worth $1, so what we do is we would say, okay, so chatzi saw is 3. So if each one's $1, it's $3 times 2 is $6, and that's the base saw that the Mishnah is talking about. And a bunch of different pshatim here. I think that was the most straightforward pshat. Rabbi Yossi, that the idea is we're not going to, we can't, like we were saying earlier, you can't be mevatel it in a huge amount. On the other hand, you can't exaggerate it in a smaller amount, right? Because that item, right, an apple out of 3 or 4 apples is worth a lot more, right? Call it the retail value versus wholesale out of 300 apples. So that's kind of the middle ground that we chose, and that's the base saw that we're referring to. We take one into 60 klachim, one stalk into 60 stalks. In other words, what will be worth, like we just said now. In other words, it's a different way of looking at it, but the idea is the same thing. We don't want to overly hurt the mazik. On the other hand, we're not looking to take away from the nizik either. So we don't say this kelach alone. We say, what's this kelach worth amongst another 60 kelachim. Obviously, it's going to be less than the kelach alone. Again, the kelach alone would be the retail, and this is as opposed to the wholesale. Chad Banosh, there was a guy, Gan of Chada Kafuni. He stole a kofini, and that's we said that's a tmara shaloi bishla kol tzarcha, says the Bnei Moshe. So it's a that it's not fully ripened, so it doesn't have a major value. Also, the Shmuel, however, and Amalei Zil Shaimele Breish Dikla, go and estimate it, even though it was unripened. Go and estimate it like it's worth in the best. The top of the tree is the best because that's what's exposed to the sun, so it cooks better, right? Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Bun. Kafsa, Kafsha Dahini Hava. The reason he said that is because this was a species, I think, this is what it means, that was actually, these were very good tamarim. Since they were very good tamarim, he said, that's why he said, even though it was an unripened tamar, but since it was going to eventually become a good juicy one, so he said, therefore, hey, as as if it's from the best already there. Fine. So Mishnah Magdish letoich sodech aveiro. Someone makes a heap of grain in his friend's field. Shalei b'shus. What happened? Mishnah Achsam to Shabbalabais. Shabbalasod, if the behem of the balasod eats it, this is where the grain was stored. Pati, it got no permission to eat it. And if the balasoda's animal was injured by then, balakodesh chayt, balakodesh has bevim higdish b'shus. However, if he was magdish b'shus, that he had permission to do it, to make the heap over there, then chayiv. And this is going even according to Rebbe. We saw on Daf Chof that he says he's not chayiv until he's mekabel on himself lishmar. In this case, it's by default he's mekabel on himself lishmar. We're going to have a very familiar Gemara that we just had. Has a din of kikelim abayis. It's as if it's in the house. Why? We're talking about in the case where it's locked. And if you remember, we said then that when I tell you to bring something to my house, you're right. If I tell you, I say, hey, Joe, you bring the stuff into my house. Joe assumes that I'm going to watch it. Why does Joe assume that I'm going to watch it? Because it's in my house. But is he going to go and watch it in my house? What does it have to do with my house? So therefore, the same thing would apply over here. And if you remember, we said then we're talking about where there's a lock to get into the garden, you can't get in. So therefore, I assume that the Baal Asad is actually going to be the one to watch it. Right? And that's what we're talking about over here. Someone who sends a be'era, a fire. We'll see what that is exactly. And biat cheshet v'kot, and they don't have das. Pot medina adam. For some reason, it's pot medina adam. But v'chaim medina shemaim. Shilcha bi'apikeach. If he sent it in the hands of a pikeach, apikeach chayv, because ein shlichot v'avera, you shouldn't have carried it there. Echad hevi. What about another case? Echad hevi seish. One guy brings the five, echad hevi seitzim. The other brings wood. Hamevi seitzim chayv. The latter guy is always, like we'll see in a second, chayv. Echad hevi seitzim. Echad hevi seitzim. Or one guy brings the wood, the other, but the second guy brings the fire. Maybe say, or chayv again, because you need both to complete it. So the guy who completes it, that's where the chiyuv lies. Bo echad, bo acher. If another guy comes, v'liba, and he fans the flames, he blows on them. We'll see actually what the lashon is. Hamalaba chayiv. So the one who blows it is chayiv. Lift the ruach. If the ruach carried it on its own, harei kulam patun, they're all pater. When do we say that he's pater medini adam? That's only where he gave him a kol. If he gives the chereshet v'katna shall heves an actual flame, then he's chayiv. If that's already that's the hezek is carved. Rabbi Yochanan, no, he gachels, he shall have us in both cases pater. Fragt die man understand? V'kasha adaita dechizkiya ilu mishu ro gachelto shel chaveiro megalgeles v'yileches v'yin koilos Hashem and pater. Somebody sees a coal rolling down the street and he doesn't do anything about it. Is he chayiv? Obviously, he's not chayiv. Who is chayiv? The one who's chayiv is the Bala Gecheles. He's chayiv. So over here, how come if I give it over to the Chesh Cotton, which for all intents and purposes is like it's rolling down the street, right? Because they're not by us. Why am I potter? So Amri said he potter b'shmasal Gecheles hefke. He gave him over Gecheles that was hefke, and that's why he's potter. So, but he's only potter Gemadini Adam. It's Gemadini Shemaim. because we know how the damage happened over here. Inami, and again, there's multiple pshatim here. Everything I just said also has multiple pshatim. We're just again we're going with a combination of the Ridvaz over here and the Marfulda, the Pnei Moshe. So a chant of pshat over here. Okay, inami shall heves hefke v'leshmami no klo. That okay, so according to the Ridvaz, what this means is inami shall heves hefke is that a shall heves hefke is that by Rabbi Yochanan, when it says he gacheles, he shall heves, dafka gacheles, that is hefka. That's where Rabbi Yochanan says ichayev. V'lesh shmami no klum. In other words, you don't see from over here, right, that he's necessarily arguing with Chizkiah. Okay. You can also say that that Chizkiah would disagree with that. Chizkiah would say that no, the only difference whether or not belongs to you or it's hefker is only by gachelis, because the hezek isn't covered by shall have it. The hezek mamish, the flame is there, it's burning. Okay, no, pashte. Is tani tani v'liba in the Mishnah, and is tani tani v'niba with a nun. So man tani v'liba, like we have the ksib alabas eish. Man dema v'liba. I'm sorry, Manamav Niba Voy Belibi Ke'esh Ba'eres. It was like in my heart, it was like a glowing fire. So it comes from that lashon. It means the same thing. Liftay Ruach Reikon Paturin and Taman Amr said Baruch Shaloinsin. It was a hurricane. He must nita. That's where Kolam Paturin Baruch Shaloim was Nagboy. But if it was a regular wind, then the guy should have known and not parked the fire there. And Chayv. Baruch Shloch Shlein Amrin Afilu Ruach Shaloim is Nagboy Potter. Shabam Ba Shabam and Pamim Leiba. You know, it's knows who's to say that okay, this was a normal wind, but sometimes it's not windy at all, and therefore I should be pata. Okay. Sagt der Mishnah noch, hey, Hashalech has a beide v'ochle eitze, mo yavon mo yofa chayev. I send over a fire, a guy's field, and it eats eitzim, avonim, offer, all these cases chayev. Shneim it says, ki seitzi yeshu motze koitzim nechal kodesh ha'kama yasade, sham yishal mavis a beide. Over get if it jumped over fence Gavoy Abams that's 8 amos high, I deruch Rabim or jumped over a highway, which is 15 amos, like we learned from the Mishkan, I Nahar or river potter. In these cases, potter. Sagt die Gemara schlecht, bei der Woche eitz, ma koitzim yuchadum shadaken li dalek. So it makes a limit of it. Ma koitzim, right? I would think ma koitzim, like these twigs or thorns. Miyuchad Shadak Lidolik, they're easily flammable. Af Ein Li Eladvam Shadak Lidolik. Maybe I'm only chayv on things that are flammable. Tamalam Gadish, which is not so flammable. Ima Gadish Miyuchad Shetolish Menakaka. So, but what does Gadish have? Gadish is unique. Uniqueness is af right. It's tolish. It's disconnected from ground. Af Ein Li Eladvam Shetolish Menakaka. Maybe only chayv on items that are detached from the ground. Tamalam Makam is while it's still connected to the ground. Oima elu ve'elu, you say miyuchad shadakli dalik. Maybe all these items they're somewhat flammable. Afenli yado shadakli dalik. Maybe all items that are somewhat flammable. That's what I'd be chayv on. Lichkon niroi, however, let's say damage the actual field, his near, his charisha, or sifsafav one of us singed the stones, which are not at all flammable. I mean, you know, I don't know a chayv for that. Tamalim asad, so all of these items are included. Great Gemara. We're going to go with the Marafolda now. V'yom koitzim kama and soda v'yom gadish. What do I need gadish for? So I'll die to under right because I could learn everything out of all the items, and I don't need gadish for anything. Gadish is connected to the ground, so that's already covered. Right. I'm sorry. So right. So gadish is includes. Right, what do I need Gadish for? It's already included in the field since it has all. I'm sorry, it's not connected to the ground, but comma right is connected to the ground. So I don't need. What do I need to tell me Gadish for? Right. So we said over here, what do I need to say Gadish for? So he says, Al daite Rabbi Yehuda nichadam and misham kol ma'ashavatoichai. Rabbi Yehuda, if you remember, Rabbi Yehuda holds that he holds tam ve'ishes chayv. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, comes to tell me I need Gadish. Why? Because I need Gadish to tell me that David that's Taman, right, is chayiv. Freit the Gemara, Valdaita Rabban. What about according to Rabban? Freit the Gemara, Damer and Enim Shalim. That Taman is Pata. Ele Gadish Chitim v'Gadish Sairim. Right. So Ele Ezadav Nema Sada. Ele Ezadav Nema Gadish. What do I need? Right. In other words, what we're saying is we're learning again what the Pshat is. What do you need Gadish for? It says once it says Sada, what we mean to say is not why does it say Sada. You need to have one of them. But going with the gears of that Lama Nema Gadish. So once you have Sada already, what do I need Gadish for? Because Gadish is included in Bechlal Sada. And since the Rabbanon holds, according to Rav Yudi, needed it because Talman Beish Yichayv. And that's you learned that from Gadish. But according to Rabbanon, with Talman Beish is Pata. So what do I need Gadish for? Gadish is already included in Sada. And it remains as a kasha. Fine. Avro Gadish Goy Abba so Derech Rabbi no Pata. Zok the Gemara Rabba. Bekedachas Himasnit. We're talking about over here that it's a fire, a high traveling fire going under its own speed. And that's where you are potter. Aval miktafas. But if it's a low burning fire, right? It's not a wind-driven fire. It's a low burning. It's Moshe says a low burning fire. I don't know if that I don't. And if Mafullah says it's not powered by the wind, I think they mean the same thing. In other words, it's a fire that's spreading naturally on its own. Then they're kol chayiv because he should have known that you're putting it over here. It's going to spread naturally, right? It's not wind-based. Rabbi Yochanan, okay, Divrei Koil, he says, right, so Amar Rabbi Kedachzim is Nita, Mektafas, Divrei Kol Chayv, and the Rafula takes out Divrei Koil. The Pnei Moshe says it's going on the next halacha, but the Rafula doesn't like that. I think it actually makes sense to take it out. Mektafas Chayv, Yichayv, and Rabbi Yochanan Taka said, Mektafas Yimasnita. Right, that when we say that your Chayiv is Mektafas, but aval b'kedachas pata b'kedachas, if it's being fanned by the wind, a wind-driven fire, how should I have known about it? And therefore, I would be pata. And again, a lot of these gemaras, there's multiple ways of learning it, and definitely don't take what we're learning here as a given pshat. As there's no Rashi here. Okay, have a wonderful day.